Welcome to Boardmaker Can Do That. My name is Caitlin Radek,
And I'm Allison Schmidt.
and we're both assistive technology coaches with Fairfax County Public Schools. Today, we're going to look at Boardmaker 7 and explore some of the amazing things that it can do as an assistive technology tool to be used with students.
Let's get started. What is Boardmaker 7? It's a powerful tool, like Caitlin was mentioning. It incorporates visuals, and you can create a lot of interactive activities as well as printables. There are 3 parts to Boardmaker 7. One is web-based. That's myboardmaker.com, and we're going to be going into that shortly. And the other 2 are installed. We have Boardmaker Editor and Boardmaker Student Center, which we will also be reviewing. Those 2, as we mentioned, are installed, and your assistive technology coach can help you do that on your computer. So let's start with myboardmaker.com. First of all, like we mentioned before, it's the website part of the Boardmaker 7. This is where you're going to be able to search and share pre-made activities, which is an awesome tool. You can also save activities to the cloud. You can upload activities to share with others. You can add My Media. So if you have pictures that you readily use in your class, you could add those into My Media. And you can also manage student information. And that's going to go a little bit more into our Student Center part, which we'll talk about later in our presentation. So let's go right to the website. Okay, we're at myboardmaker.com. So you just want to type in myboardmaker.com into your URL window. Once you get there, you can see my username and password is already auto-populated. But if you don't have yours in there already, you would just type that in. So once my information is in there, I'm going to click Login. All right, we're in. This is what it looks like. So you'll notice when you open it that it'll verify that you're in your account. And right now I'm in our ATS account. And across the top, there are a number of banner labels, which I'm going to go over which each means. First thing that myboardmaker.com is an amazing tool for is searching pre-made activities. Okay, so let's look at how we're going to search in myboardmaker.com. The first place you can search is by going to this magnifying glass, which is on the right side of your screen. When you click on that, it says Search All Activities. This is where you can type in something that your class might be working on, where you might be looking for activities. I'm going to type in continence because I'm teaching 7th grade and I know my students are working on that. Once I type that in, you'll see that a variety of options come up below, and these are all activities that already live in myboardmaker.com that other teachers have made. There's a variety of different kinds of Boardmaker activities, and you can tell by the visual here. When you see just a plain paper piece right here, that means that it's a printable activity. So this could be something that maybe you print out and laminate to have as flashcards in your room. Maybe you print it out as a bulletin board. Maybe you print it out to send home to parents or as an activity to be done in class. This screen means it's an interactive activity. This means that once you assign an activity through the Boardmaker Student Center, the student can interact with it on their computer, maybe however they access the computer, whether that be eye gaze or touch monitor or mouse. You can also put this on your whiteboard, your smartboard, and have students interact with it as a group. When there's a stack of papers like this means it's a set. That means that it's a whole bunch of activities on a particular topic. And lastly, we have this screen with a P in it, and that means that this particular activity collects performance. It's a performance measure, so it collects information about how the student did on that particular activity. So let me show you what it looks like once we click on it. So if I clicked on this, you'll see you get a little picture of what the activity might look like. And I can see that this is an interactive activity where I'm dragging the name of the continent over to the picture, which I know could be a great tool for my students, both being individually assigned to them and both reviewing on the whiteboard. Up top, you see a number of icons. There's a number of different things across the top, and we're going to go over this more later, but this is where you would assign it to a student. You could download it, and also it lets you pop out to the editor where you can do some editing. You'll see there's not a plus here because I've already added it to my things, but let's go back. Let's go back to some of the other options and see if there's one that hasn't been added yet. There's so many great options for the different templates. Maybe I want to use this to print out flashcards for my students. And you can see here that there's an add button, and that means it's going to add it to my Boardmaker. So I'm going to click on that. You'll see a prompt came across the top that said it's been added to my Boardmaker. Now, if I go back to my Boardmaker, you can see that this is a list of things that you've added. Let's go back to the top. So that was continents. Let's try something else. Maybe you're working on life cycles of butterflies. Again, we have the set. We have some great interactive activities for different subject areas. We have matching, we have books, we have life cycles, we have all different great activities that you can download. I'm just going to pick another one. And this looks like a hidden picture. I'm going to add this one too. Okay, so I've added that as well. Let's go back. When you're narrowing down what kind of activities you want or what kind of activities you're looking for, you can also notice that there is a way to narrow your results on the left-hand side. So you can choose just people from your organization. You can choose a particular subject area. You can choose a grade level. You can choose a type of activity like the ones we talked about before. There's a lot of different things you can use to narrow down your search field. So that might help with your search as well. The nice thing about myboardmaker.com is that other teachers have already created these materials, so this might be a great jumping point for you in your classroom. It might not be ready to go, but it could be a great way to start and then edit it for your specific students. Okay, so that's how we search. Let's go a little bit more across the top banner. There's also a help, and you can find different resources here, different videos, ways that you can use the product. If you go to community, this could be where you access your groups if you already have groups added or particular friends. You can also browse groups, which is a great way to maybe search up people who might work in a similar field or have similar materials to you. So I'm going to click on browse groups. And when that happens, this is going to open. And below are things that we have added as groups already, but you might not have any. One amazing resource that you can add is if you type in the word VSOL and enter. I think I need to put it all in caps. Okay, so now you can see below that there's a community called FCPS VSOL Resources, and I'm already a member of this community, but if you weren't, you could just click on it and go to that or add that group to your resources. This group is amazing because if you're a teacher who works with students who access the VSOL curriculum, you can see a lot of great activities that are already made. And you can use this to get ideas. You can use this to pick an activity and then add it like we did before. Just click on this plus. This is another awesome one where you can label a plant cell. So this is just a great place where you can search people in the field that might have activities and materials that might be helpful to you.
And once you get comfortable, it's a great place for you to upload your activities too, to share them with other people.
Well, that's a perfect segue to this activities tab, Caitlin, because this is where you can access community activities, premium activities, but you can also upload your own activities. So like Caitlin said, once you're comfortable and you have things that you feel would be helpful to your neighbor, to fellow teachers, then you can upload it here. And I'm not going to go through, I'm not going to upload something now, but I just want to show you what this looks like. And so here you would add the title. So maybe if it's something dealing with a particular VSOL, you could put it there, a little description. You can choose your privacy settings, what grade level you feel like this applies to, the subject, whatever you think is important, and then you can upload this. And like Caitlin said, this is a great resource. You can also be a great resource to your peers in the field. Thanks for that segue, Caitlin. Awesome. Okay, so our next tab across the top is students. This is where we're going to manage our students. And as we mentioned, we can assign activities to students. We're going to be talking about this a lot more later. In fact, we are going to go back to this tab, but just keep in mind that your student tab is here at myboardmaker.com. All right, now we're on to curriculum. Caitlin?
So, in addition to all the amazing resources that we have that you can search for that other teachers have made, Boardmaker, the company, has also created a number of curriculum resources that are ready to go and available for download through this website. You'll notice there's Boardmaker Core First Learning, Reading Avenue, Expedition Education, and some of your different grade levels for BookBridge. BookBridge tends to take some of your sort of grade level books and have adapted materials for them. Exhibition education is more sort of your geography, history, some of those cultural lessons that you might be interested in doing. And Reading Avenue has a bunch of different reading curriculum and books. All of them are leveled out for your students. So you can pick things that are scaffolded if you have a variety of learners in your class where maybe one person needs a lot of support, but another student doesn't need as much support. You can do the same activity with your group, but at different levels. So it's a great way to differentiate. All of these are great supplemental resources. They're not going to replace the evidence-based programs that you're already doing in your classroom, but they're a great way to supplement that curriculum and use some of these ready-made resources.
And who doesn't love pre-made stuff?
Exactly. So the one that I probably use the most is this Boardmaker Core First Learning. The reason I love it is because I support a number of students with AAC devices. This curriculum actually has books and activities for a number of the core words that are those really commonly used words on student devices. So if you have students who have a device with a bunch of core vocabulary, you can actually find lessons and books for all sorts of core words through this program. So if you look at the resources here on the left, I just kind of clicked through to show you what this would look like when you go to open it. And you'll see we've got go, want, more, stop, like, and the list just keeps going of that first set of core words. They have lesson plans for how to support this, which you can download using this little arrow. They also have performance and interactive and printable activities for each book. So there's quizzes, there's interactive books, there's printable books, there's writing activities. There's so much in here that you can explore and use with your students, and you can actually assign them to your students right here. If you see, we'll go into this a little bit more when we get back to the website, but you can assign things straight to students here. And it's just a really great resource. So definitely if you have some of those AAC users, if you're working on some of those kids who are really working on learning language and learning how to communicate, this is a wonderful supplemental resource to use with those kiddos.
And I know we're always looking for ways to send home materials home so we can support our students at home. This, like Caitlin said, it doesn't take the place of our curriculum, but it's a nice supplemental tool that you can send home, or a student might be interacting with through the Student Center at home to get our parents involved as well. So going back to our top banner, we have My Boardmaker, and I know we went here before, but again, just to review, this is where you're going to see any activities you've added. And again, you're going to be able to download and add it to a student account through the top here. But our things like editing, you'll see if I hover over it, it says it'll send you to the Boardmaker 7 editor. So that's a perfect jump off for us now to talk about the editor. Okay, as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, Boardmaker 7 editor is installed, and you'll have a thumbnail like you see up here on your desktop. All right, so what can you do in Editor? You can create activities, you can edit pre-made activities, you can access templates, you can do such amazing things to customize activities just for your students. Okay, so now we're in Boardmaker Editor, and as we mentioned before, this is installed and a thumbnail on your desktop. So once I clicked on my desktop icon, this is the screen I went to. So you would put in information. Obviously, if you've already been on there, it would auto-populate. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So once you get in, you'll see that this is highlighted. This is my recents because this is the most recent thing that I've been working on. You might not have anything here right now because you might not have worked on anything yet. And below, you'll see My Boardmaker, and that's going to be a mirror of what you had in the myboardmaker.com. All those activities you added, anything you added before, anything you uploaded will be here. Boardmaker Editor really works hand in hand with myboardmaker.com, which is great. Okay, so I have my activities I've added. So how do we edit them now? So you'll see if I hover over the activities that I just added, it shows something that says download. And if there's one that I've already downloaded, I'll have edit and play options. So I'm going to go ahead and download this activity because I can't edit it until I've downloaded it. So I'm going to click on it. Goes pretty fast. I'm going to close it. Now you'll see if I go back to that activity, I have an option to either play it or edit it. Let's try another one. So again, in order to edit it, you just need to make sure you download it first. Easy as that. Okay, so how do we edit activities? Because we talked about getting activities from other teachers, which is amazing and perfect, but sometimes it's not the exact thing that we want for our students. So we need to look at how do we tweak things that are already in pre-made activities to make it just right for our students. So I'm going to start with this token board here. And when we talk about versatility and amazing things that Boardmaker has available to us, token boards are one great thing that is available through this resource. This is something obviously you could print out and laminate and use with your students. Okay, so I had this for one student, but I know that I want to use a similar token board for another student, but that student has different interests. So that means that I know I want to edit this template. So in order to do that, all you need to do is, let's see, first I want to decide what I want to replace. So the student I'm creating this token board for isn't really into iPad, but he is into his laptop. So I'm going to click on the cell and you'll see a blue square came around the cell. Now I can just start typing what I want for this student. And I typed in laptop and you will see that different pictures of laptops came up, which is awesome. I'm going to go ahead and click on laptop because that's the one that looks like the one my student uses, and you'll see it replaced it. So that was so easy. Let's try one more thing. Maybe I want to click on Smarties this time. Let's see. I have other candy in mind. Click on candy. Maybe I want to swap it out for this candy. This looks a little bit more. Click OK, and you'll see it replaced. Another thing that you can do is, so you can edit in place just by typing the word. Another way you can access symbols is if you go to the Symbols tab over here, and you can search. Now, one great thing about Boardmaker Editor and Boardmaker is that it has access to the bank of symbols in my Boardmaker, but it also has, if you added any media, let's say you saved a picture of something specific in your classroom and you had it saved there. You can also search the web directly, which is awesome because it takes out needing to pop out and pop back in. Okay, let's search the web. So I'm going to search the web for fidgets. So I'm going to type in fidget. And you'll see different options come up from the web. Like we mentioned before, this is nice. You don't have to go to the web, copy it, bring it back over. It's just right there for you. So all you have to do is, I'm going to pick out this one. You can drag it and put it right where that button is. Now it's going to give you an option. Do you want to replace it or add to it? Now, if you had a cell where you wanted to add more than one picture, you could add to it. Or if I just wanted to take the place of the old one, which I do, I'm going to click on replace. And there you go. See, it replaces. So you can either edit in place or you can go to the symbols. So now you see it's here. Okay. If I'm editing pre-made activities, you can also change the font and cell size, but Caitlin's going to go over that more later. But just to review, you can either search it up there or you can just type right on here, press enter, and you can pick an activity or rather a picture right from here. And you can also access the web from there as well. Okay, so now we have our activity all customized for our student. So now if I wanted to save this, now this is good for Billy. This previous token board was used for Carol. So I'm going to click on these 3 lines in the top left corner, and I'm going to do a save as and save it with my new name. Or you can save it if you're just changing one that's been created before and you haven't used for another student. So I'm going to do save as. I'm going to type in Billy. And if I were to go back to myboardmaker.com, you would see that it's also in the My Boardmaker list. Okay, let's return to our dashboard. Okay, so that's how you edit activities that have already been made. Caitlin now is going to delve into how you create new activities.
So to create a new activity in Boardmaker Editor, the first thing we're going to do is look over on the left-hand side of our dashboard, and you'll see there's this bright green New button. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it'll take just a second to load. Once this loads, it'll give me the option to either create a brand new blank activity from scratch or to use one of the pre-made templates that are built into Boardmaker. So you'll see it started me off on my recently used activities. For the first example, I'm going to show you how to make a blank activity. So I'll click on blank. And now it gives me a few options. I want to make a printable activity, so I'll click on print portrait mode. You could also create interactive activities or align your page in a different way and do a landscape activity. I'm going to move us for 1 second so we can see the create button that is right under our picture there. It is bright green. So go ahead and click on that. And now I've opened my Boardmaker editor with a brand new blank activity with nothing on it. So you'll see at the top here, sort of similar to how we were looking at the top menu on the website, we've got our top menu up here in the editor. The select button is what's currently selected. So you'll see I've got a big arrow. That just lets me click on things and move them around in the editor. If I want to actually add content, the main way I would do this is by creating a button. So I'll click on button. And I'm just going to then draw a little square or a big square onto my page here. You'll see now I've got a blank canvas, and just how Allison was showing us when we edit an activity, I can type right into the button. So I'm going to put a cat into our button. I just typed CAT, and I'm going to hit enter. And now I've got all my Boardmaker symbols to choose from, so I can find a cute little cartoon kitty cat here. Oops. And then I'll click on select. So now I've got my cat in my button.
Perfect choice.
Once I've got something in my button, I can play around with the button. I could edit some of the properties in it. I can change the size, so I can make it bigger or smaller. If I wanted to make a number of copies of this button, one of my favorite tools in creating token boards, or if you're doing a visual schedule or something where you need a lot of buttons that are the same size and shape, you can use this awesome spray tool up here. And when I then click and drag on my button, it will make copies of it. So it's a great way if you're making a token board from scratch. You can quickly make a lot of tokens. You can make your reinforcers as well. If I didn't want content in those buttons, so I'm going to delete all of these. So I'm selecting them, and now I'm just clicking delete on my keyboard. I can make a new blank button. So I clicked button. I'm going to draw my square. And now I could spray. And it's lining all my buttons up. It's spacing them evenly. And it's making sure that they're all having things lined up in a nice way so that it looks pretty. That's the spray tool. And again, if we put content in, it'll duplicate that content. If we don't put anything in it, it will not. I'm going to move our pictures right back down here. So the other thing you'll see up here, so that's just making a square or rectangle button. You'll see as well, you have the option for shapes. So if you want to make a button that's a different shape, you could do circles, triangles, all sorts of fun. It works the same way. You just drag it out. I made my stop sign, and if I wanted to spray, I can click and drag those as well. So if you don't want to use a square, you have lots of options you can play with in your shapes.
And you can do a big circle for your Big Mac.
Exactly. Or stop for your stop sign by the door.
Yes, perfect.
So as I've sprayed these on here, you've got your shapes in there. You'll see we've got a few more options up here. So if I click on line, I can click and drag and it's just going to draw a straight line. So if maybe you're making a table for a chart or you're making a list and you want to have straight lines in between, you can add lines in. You can also add labels. So all a label is really just putting text on your screen. So if I create a label button, I can start typing in. I'm just sticking with my example of cat. It's now put the words on there. If we look on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see there's this properties bar, and I'm going to move us one more time. Woo! We move all around. So you'll see in this properties bar, this is where if I click on any of my buttons or labels, where I can kind of change what they look like. So I can change how the symbol is. I can edit the text on it. I can change the font size. So if I'm on my label down here and it's kind of a smaller font size, I can make it nice and big so folks can actually see it, or even bigger than that. Woo!
Cat!
So now you can really read it. You can also change like the background colors of your different symbols. And just how we did when we were editing a button, we can either type in place. So we'll switch it up. We'll do a dog for this one. So I type in dog. I can edit in place and pull my pictures in this way. I can use my web search. So if I want a more realistic picture of a dog, I can pick this cutie here and put him in.
Oh.
And we can add those pictures in either by typing or by going over to our symbols and searching that way. I can also, within my button in the properties, if I want my text on the top, because we're really working on literacy and I want my kids to see the words first, I can kind of switch that around in there. So definitely play around with your properties. You can change your background color, your borders, all sorts of things to really customize those symbols and those buttons to what's going to work best for your students. That's one of the great things about Boardmaker is just how customizable it is. All right, we're going to move back over. So that's how you can create and edit an activity from scratch. Now, starting out with this program, I think one of the most powerful things that Boardmaker has is all of the amazing built-in templates. So to show you that, I'm going to return to my dashboard. And I'm not going to save this because I was just messing around, so we won't save that one. And once again, I'm going to go to create a new activity. This time, instead of going to that part where we saw blank, we're going to look at one of our Boardmaker templates. So now I'm back on my screen where I can look for my different templates and create an activity from a template. When you first open it up, it'll go to recently used, and then we can look through our templates either using the side menu or the search bar at the top. If you're using the search bar at the top, you can just type in writing, multiple choice, whatever sort of activity you're looking for. Or if you want to sort of see what options are out there, you can use the sidebar to either search for printable or interactive activities. You'll see once you click on printable, you've got calendars, games, math options, visual schedules. So there's all sorts of great things within here that I highly recommend you sort of take a look at. There's really some great options in here. Today, we're going to look a little bit more at our interactive options. So I'm clicking on interactive. And one of my very favorite templates in Boardmaker is this writing template. And it's called free writing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. You'll see there's a bunch of other great templates here too. So I'm going to click on that. And then once again, I'm moving us so I can get to our create button. So now I'm in a template and you'll see on the side here, we have different squares. These are going to be similar to a slide in your PowerPoint or Google Slides, or if you've used Smart Notebook, how the different pages each have a slide. Each one of these is a page of the activity that you can link to through different buttons. So just so you know, while you're navigating, if you want to navigate one page, you'll just click on it. So I'm on core right now and it'll show me what words are there. If I want to add, so this is a writing template, I might use this, let's say my students are going on a CBI to the zoo. So I want to add some specific vocabulary for them for the zoo. So I'll click on vocabulary and I have a bunch of blank buttons here. I'll use my edit in place. So click on a button. You'll see I want that little highlighted sort of square around it. And then I'll type in, we're at a zoo. So I'm going to type in zebra and hit enter. I can pick my Boardmaker picture for a zebra. Let's say we also saw the pandas. I'm going to type in panda.
Yes.
And just one of the things I would really recommend if you're typing in nouns, it's easier when you're looking for images to use the singular version of that noun. Sometimes if I were to type in pandas with an S, it might not come up with something. So if you search for singular, you can get your symbol and then always edit the text on the button afterwards. So let's put one more on here. Oops. So I'm going to say cage as well. So we'll type in cage. And I'll pick a cage. Maybe not. I don't want a rib cage. So maybe I don't like those. I could search using the web, or if I had uploaded something from my media. We'll just go ahead with this bird cage because we went to the bird exhibit. I could fill this in with as many vocabulary words as I wanted. I'm not going to go through all of that because I don't want to make the training 2 hours long. So know that you can put more words in here as well. If I kind of scroll through, I can see some of my different options as well. There are keyboards in here. It's really a wonderful template. If I wanted to change how any of these buttons looked, again, I could use my properties, change the background color. I could change and make the words be on top of the button. It really gives you all sorts of wonderful options.
And you could color code if it were like nouns and verbs and adjectives.
Once I've got my activity ready to go and added any content that I might need in it, I'm going to go to this top left corner. And these 3 bars are where a lot of our different settings and things live. So I'm going to click on save. I can name it zoo writing, or we'll just even abbreviate writing there, and save. So now I've got this ready to go. If this were a printable activity or I wanted a printout of it, I could click on create PDF. And when I do that, it's going to take a little bit. It's going to show me where this is going to save. And then I would click create, save it to a spot as well. And now you have an easy to print PDF saved on your computer that you can access at a later time to print out. So there's no print button built into Boardmaker. You have to use that create PDF and then print your PDF out from your computer. So now that I've edited this activity and added kind of the things I want to use in it, I'm going to show you how we might play this on the smartboard for students. So I clicked on play. And now I'm going to move us one more time. Allison and I just keep moving around the screen for you guys. So now we've got in our template some different options. We've got a keyboard. We've got those vocabulary words. So I might be talking about the zebra and say zebra. I go to my core words. Zebra is. And then I can start typing as well. So I can either use the on-screen keyboard. If you have a student using switches or eye gaze, they might be scanning through the letters or using their eyes to control here. So maybe I want to say the zebra is striped. So I'm going to start typing. And it may take a little bit depending on what you're looking for. We've got different options up here. You'll note as I'm typing, there's a built-in dynamic word prediction bar up here. So it's guessing what word I'm trying to type and what word might come next in that sentence. So if you have students who are really working on those early literacy skills, they're really just starting to write, they can use that traditional keyboard, but have that kind of picture to support to know it's the word that they wanted to say, and to have that sort of extra scaffolded support built in. Maybe they know how to spell some words and they're using the keyboard for that, but they don't know all the specific vocabulary, so they're using this keyboard to get those more specific words.
That's great for those eye gaze kids too, because it's less things that they have to type if it comes up in the word prediction.
Exactly. So it's really a wonderful way to scaffold things for your students. Again, we can have access to that traditional keyboard for writing, but we also have options to scaffold it and give some options for kiddos as well. So we've got our core vocabulary and our specific vocabulary as well. So now that my student has written some on here, I can have it read it back to them. And I don't know if you can hear the computer audio or not, but it just read back zebra is striped. If there's a mistake, I can click edit. And again, for my eye gaze students or my switch users, where it might be difficult to use a keyboard to hit backspace, here we can actually scan through and select our choices so we can move where in the writing we want to change it. We can have it read back. We can have it scroll through whole sentences, delete words, and edit that way. We can also print our work, which will create one of those PDFs as well. So you can have students who maybe can't use a keyboard, a traditional keyboard with their hands, or can't do a lot of things in a not been able to access writing in a real way, use the traditional keyboard, use those vocabulary words, and now they can print out their work and send home to their parents, look what your student wrote. It's really such a powerful tool. So if you have some of those struggling writers, it's definitely one that I would check out. So this is just one of the many templates that are built into Boardmaker. I'm going to click on stop here. And I'm going to take us back into our slideshow so you can see our template guide to go through a few more of the wonderful templates that are built into this program. So this link will take us to the Boardmaker Interactive Template Guide. The really wonderful thing about this is it has pictures and kind of descriptions about each of the different templates that are built in that you can access with your students. So you'll see in the template guide, it's divided up by different kinds of activities. So you've got art, books, writing, calendars. There's some really great math things in here as well. So you've got like a built-in calculator that your eye gaze students can use, but it just goes on. It's over 20 pages long. We don't have time to show the whole thing in this presentation, but definitely take a look at it because there's so many powerful tools that you can use with your students. So definitely take a moment to check that out. If you notice, if you do have students using eye gaze, any activity that has this little eyeball icon is going to work well for students accessing using eye gaze. So now that we've looked at our templates a bit, we're going to go ahead and talk about the Boardmaker Student Center. The Student Center is the kid version of Boardmaker. It is an installed software that's going to show up on your students' computers. It works on or offline, but you do have to be online to download activities. So just how Allison showed in the editor, we're going to do the same thing in Student Center and download activities before we can play them. And for those activities that do have that kind of P in the computer screen, the performance activities, it'll actually track your student data for you. The icon for it looks like this little green background with a little pencil rocket ship. So I clicked on my Student Center and I'm already logged in, but you might see a login screen when you first go to this. You'll see it looks very similar to the editor. We've got our menu on the left-hand side here. If I click on Activity Center, there are a number of ready-made activities that Boardmaker has built in here. So if you're practicing different access methods with students, they've got like whack-a-mole. They have some different things with like bubble wrap popping. There's all sorts of great interactive activities that are built in. So even if your student doesn't have a Boardmaker account, they can actually access these things in the Activity Center. If your student does have a Boardmaker account, so I'm going to click up here and I can click on Account, and that's where I would log in or log out. For a student, they can either log in by typing their username and password, or there are little printable QR codes that you can hold up to the camera, and that will actually log in for that student.
And your ATS coach can definitely help you with that.
So I'm going to go ahead back to my dashboard here. Since I'm logged in as a teacher, if I click on my classroom, I can see my playlist as a teacher, or I can click on my students. So you'll see I have 2 students in my class. I'm going to click on Dana Carvey. And this will be the same view now that if I had logged in as a student that my student will see. Any activity that I've already downloaded is going to show up in that sort of bright color, and anything that I've assigned through the website but not downloaded will be grayed out, and I just have to click on that arrow to download it. Once I'm in an activity, or once it's downloaded, I just click on it and it will automatically start to play. So this is a multiple choice activity. It's reading the text out loud, and then it has picture choices. When I click on it, it will tell me whether I've made the correct choice or not. If I'm in supported mode or if I'm in testing mode, it will not give me that feedback. So it's a great way to sort of scaffold your learning, give those supports for students while they're learning something. You may have it correct them. And once they've sort of got it down and you're getting ready for that assessment piece, you can turn off that supported mode. I'm going to click on stop to exit the activity. So you'll see there's a number of different activities for the student in here. If I had a student who is using a different access method, so I have a student who might use switches or eye gaze or something other than a standard mouse or touchscreen, I can actually customize the templates or customize the student center for them. So I'm in as Dana Carvey. I can go into my menu and go to settings. And then on the left-hand side, there's a number of different methods, but the one you'll really want to look at for those alternate access kids is access method. You'll see we've got simple touch, mouse pause, scanning, all sorts of different things here. I'd say most of our students are probably going to be either scanning or gaze interaction if they're eye gaze, if they're not using that simple touch. So I'll click on scan just to show you. You have the option to use one switch or multiple switches. You can change the pattern of the scanning. You can change the color of what you want it to look like. And you can have it offer audio or not. So maybe if you have a student who might have some vision issues, you might want that auditory cue as it scans through choices. Once I've made my selections here, I can go back out of the menu and go back to my classroom. I'll go back to, this is what the student login looks like. So I'll go back into Dana Carvey's account here for a second. So now that I changed my access method for Dana, it is automatically scanning through choices. So if he was using a switch, he could hit his switch when it's on the activity row that he wants. So it's going through our choices here. He could hit his switch to select an activity. And then once we're in the activity, it's going to scan through our options as well. And it'll give him the option to use his switch to kind of scan through those choices. Same with our eye gaze students. It will sort of have that dwell circle for them if they're using the Tobii eye gaze bar or another way of eye gaze. It does, if you are using eye gaze with Boardmaker, the Tobii bar tends to work best for that. But your ET coach will help you through any of those settings and getting all of that set up for your kiddos for you to. So that just gives you an example of what some of the activities would look like for your students. Again, the possibilities are endless. There's so many templates and things that you can add in there. Now Allison's going to show you on the other end, on the website, how you actually get these activities to populate within the Student Center. So we've seen what it looks like for our students. Now we're going to look at the teacher side of that.
Okay, so now we're back on myboardmaker.com. Just a reminder that this is the website of Boardmaker 7, and I'm on my main page. If you go to My Boardmaker, just a reminder, here's a list of any activities you've created or edited on the editor side. Like we were saying before, the My Boardmaker works directly with the editor. And you can add or assign activities to your students here. So remember that when we had the P in the screen, that means it collects performance information. So if I were to click on an activity, and you can see across the top, there's a little student with an arrow going towards him. And this is how you're going to assign an activity. So I would just click on that. And then what you can do is you can choose the student you want it to be assigned for. We already have it assigned for Dana. So now we're going to assign it for Rob as well. So I'm going to go ahead and assign that. Okay, now let's look what else is in here for the students. So this is also where you would have your student management. And this is going to be any information about students you have an account for. And if you have a student on AT caseload that you would like to access a student account, just make sure you tell your AT coach and they can help you get set up with a student account. You can also find information about my students' performance data, which Caitlin can show you.
So within this, you can select your student from the drop-down menu. So all of the students who have you listed as their teacher will show up here. So I'll click on Dana Carvey, since we were looking at him before, and I can run this. And it will show me a graph of kind of all the different things he's working on. Another way to do this is if I go back to my student management and I see my student list, I can actually just click on my student ID number. When I look at this, I can see my students' login information. So if they're trying to type it in themselves and need that prompt, I can help them with that. I also have that barcode that you can print that will let them just log in using the camera on their computer. Here on this screen under each student, I can see the activities that I've assigned to them. And I can see whether it's in supported mode, so whether it's going to give that feedback if they get a wrong answer, or independent mode, which would be that more assessment where it's not going to tell you if you got an answer wrong. After I kind of look through the activities that they have, I can also see the progress at the top here that they're making on those activities. So progress is going to show those different activities, what they did on it, and a really quick view of their performance on each activity. I can also get sort of more detail about their performance if I click on performance results. That's going to show every session. So you'll see the date, the time they started, the time they stopped, and how long they spent on an activity. If I click on these little carrots on the side, it sort of drops down to show more information. So I can see they did this multiple choice activity. And then if I click on the carrot again, I'll get even more information. So I can see they did this activity, but they didn't finish. They got half of the answers right, and they did it in independent mode. If I keep going down as well, I can see what questions were in this activity, what choices my students were offered, what answer they selected, and what the correct answer was. So if they didn't select an answer, it'll be blank. If they selected a wrong answer, it'll show you that wrong answer. So you can really help figure out where your students are making those mistakes and then go back and correct and reteach what needs to be retaught for them.
And this is great for those areas that we're looking at for the VSOL. As we know, it's multiple choice. So you can look at how your student's doing. Like Caitlin said, what you need to reteach, work on. You can also print this out and put it in your documentation binder just as another way to document what you've been working on.
That's also wonderful if you have students where you might be assigning activities for them to do at home or with a different teacher. You can check in and pull that data really quickly so you know, are they actually logging in? Did they spend 1 minute on it or did they spend 5 minutes on it? So you can kind of see if your students are rushing through things or what they're doing on the activity. It really gives a lot of great information, and it's a quick, easy way to pull it. You can also print your results using that button up there. So it's a wonderful tool for data collection. So now that we've kind of gone through all those different parts of Boardmaker 7, if it's a tool that you don't have yet that you're interested in getting to support your students, the main thing you want to do is talk to your ATS coach. If you have students who are on our caseload who require this to access the curriculum, we can help you get set up. We can offer you additional training and get you to all those great resources on the website or on our ATS employee hub.
And make sure you check out that template guide to get some ideas of how it might be useful for you.
Again, the possibilities are endless. There's so much you can do with it. And talk to your AT coach, and you'll be flying in no time with Boardmaker.
All right. Bye.
Bye.